Welcome to the Healthy Perspective Podcast with your host, chiropractor, entrepreneur, mentor, and author, Dr. Chris Boman. He'll break down and extract the secret sauce behind his own success and the success of some of the top leaders in every category and from around the world. Get ready for your weekly mental adjustment because shift is going to happen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Perspective Podcast. Today is going to be high caliber, high level, yet relatable because we have Mr. Joe Caruso on with us, who's an expert on the individual mind, the collective mind of an organization, and how meaning drives our behavior and determines outcomes in all aspects of life. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's mentored some of the biggest businesses out there. It's a real treat for me to have this conversation as we're talking offline. Like, what I get out of this is a conversation with somebody that's far many levels above me, and so I'm looking forward to mining his mind and learning from him to make a better practice for myself, and to hopefully give you guys some principles of business and life that you can take to your own families, and really just level up. That's the goal of today's call. So Joe, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I believe to suck up early and often is a good motto to have, but this isn't a suck up. This is a thank you. You're helping people become more introspective. These days, that's a lost art in America. And those who need it the most do it the least. So I appreciate the work you're doing. I know you get a lot out of it, but I appreciate the work you're doing for others as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So why don't we just start at the beginning? You mentioned in your bio some things. Obviously, the people reading can't see that. Why don't you start at kind of your catalyst moment that changed the trajectory? Describe a little bit about who you were, what you were doing before that, and then kind of what you learned through that, and then we'll take offshoots from there.
Okay. Pardon me. I open with this story in my last bestseller, which is The Power of Losing Control. Pardon me. When I was in high school as class president, first chair in a band, first chair, the lead saxophone in the jazz band, was quite athletic. I had 4 scholarships, including an ACT scholarship. I had a lot going for me. We weren't a wealthy family. In fact, I was told they could only afford a community college degree. So that's why I worked hard to earn the scholarships and such. I go away to college my freshman year. My birthday is in November, so I was about 17, end of my 17th year. And I developed testicular cancer, which I'm going to make this short so we have more time to talk about principles and concepts and so on. But basically, I had 4 major surgeries and experimental chemotherapy. I'm cut everywhere. And so two tumors in my right lung, one in my left lung, from here to here. And you could just imagine my hand goes to my belt buckle, my other hand, because I see it here. Just because I was the experiment. The prognosis was death. Wow. Certain death, not you might die. It was no one ever lived from this. And so I was part of I had to sign away my rights to sue because they told me the chemo could kill me. And it damn near did, but I made it through it. I'm going bald for the 3rd time, Dr. Chris. I don't know if chiropractic will help me with that. But I'm kind of used to it. It's like a hobby now,
Right.
So when I was sick, I had a chance to think about why live if you're going to die. And I realized life is a sexually transmitted disease that's incurable. And there's one way out. So you're going to die. So what are you going to do now between now and then if you could do anything?
Right.
And I started to learn about life. I studied 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. I started with Will Durant's The Story of Philosophy. Started studying into psychology and more about that, and psychoanalysis. I found some of the greatest mentors in the world and became friends. And if they even sideways mentioned a book, I was all over that book in short order. No, I didn't know I was going to live. My last birthday was just a couple months ago. Not my last, my most recent. And I decided that why live if you're going to die? Maybe it's not about you. Maybe, as you and I talked about before the interview, maybe it's about developing your skills to the best of your ability to help other people. I added 3 words: and enjoy it. And so I like to play and have fun and crack jokes. So that's kind of my background, and that's where I'm here now. I married a retired school teacher who's 12 years older and one sex wiser, as Voltaire would say, the French philosopher. I always try to credit people when I give a quote. And I'm a writer. I want the same, consideration. And I had no idea I'd be a bestseller in 6 languages and working on my new book. This is it.
That's awesome.
It's great. It's called Narrative Wins. It's going to come out in the spring.
Okay.
And it's about we are the stories we tell ourselves we are.
So
you
good.
know your work.
Yeah.
With special needs kids and disadvantaged kids, and it's a leader has to learn to tell the right story to the right person at the right time in the right way, not just talk.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to speak with punctuation. That was a period. And give the mind time to recognize that once in a while there's a strong sentence that can speak to the mind of another, but it needs to consider that. So it's a good skill to develop. I'm really looking forward to getting this out there. It's already getting some great internal reviews from what I call our friendlies that we send it to.
How exciting.
Pretty fun. So you've got a very interesting career with what you do, especially because you're so passionate, which comes across very, very quickly. In business, a young entrepreneur or someone considering possibly being a young entrepreneur, passion's required. I went to a winery in Napa for the first time in my life about 20 years ago. And the woman started off by a tree, and she says, "This is the bark of the tree that we use to make the cork."
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I like her.
And
then she said, excellence requires passion.
Yeah.
So then we go through the whole thing, and then everybody's tasting wine at the end. And I walked up to her and I said, "Your first statement, excellence requires passion. Why? Why can't it just be talent that can create excellence?" And she said, "Because you don't appreciate it. You have a tendency to dismiss it, not utilize it, not fully optimize it." She said, "But if you're passionate, you're going to go an extra mile more than everyone else will." And that's critical. And in business, you go from passion to hobby and try to figure out how to make money. Hobby can be a hobby that can make a little money or can make, like some of my clients, $1 billion. And the key, and you're doing this in your business, is to recognize the business is an asset. Grow the asset. You can sell it, you can buy it, you can recreate it. My wife teaches art kids, sometimes as young as 4 and 5. And we do an art show every year. The kids come out and dress up, art on display, and all the parents come out. It's pretty nice. And so the one little girl says, I like this painting the most of one of her paintings. Carol says, "Well, what are you going to do if someone offers to buy it from you?" She says, well, I'd like to sell it.
Hmm.
Carol says, well, I know I have some paintings that I like that I don't know if I can sell. And the 5-year-old says, you painted it once. You could paint it again.
From the mouth of a child, huh?
Beautiful thing.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I think having that catalyst story be so real to you, like you are going to die. What are you going to do? Like, you know what I mean? How do you help people acquire that passion about life, about, whatever it is that they're doing when they're not faced with such a I don't know, blunt or in your face, realization, it's, a healthy-ish. I don't know if any CEOs are really that healthy because they're always so stressed, but a healthy-ish CEO that's looking to better their lives and whatnot, that doesn't have this moment of I almost died or I almost lost this or how do you stir up that passion in somebody or help somebody realize that lives within them, because they're not going to get better unless they get more passionate about it. I'm sure you can teach systems, principles, rules, all of that stuff, but if they don't love it, it's probably a losing cause.
I would agree. That's a good question. I do a lot of speaking, keynote speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And a gentleman who was a CEO out of Chicago said, do I need to have a near-death experience to be as focused and successful as you are?
Mm.
I never thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in the moment, you got 10,000 people and you got a mic in your hand and you got to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to think aloud if that's okay. And he said, I appreciate that. Then I know it's going to be candid. I said, I never thought about it. But the answer is no.
Mm.
There's too many people on record that did not have a near-death experience that are wildly successful.
Mm.
So the answer has to be no, just by the law of averages.
Sure.
By record. I know a buddy of mine who owns a very specialized insurance company, and I mentored him for 5 or 6 years. And he's quite intelligent. I don't know if he speaks 4 or 5 languages, but he's quite intelligent, and he's respected, world renowned, respected.
Mm-hmm.
He hates insurance.
Mm.
He hates the nuts and bolts of the insurance business. That's just the nuts and bolts of the insurance business. He hired the key people. They run the business. He's the visionary. He's the marketer. He's the guy that thinks of things that haven't been yet, knows they could be, somewhat knows how to get there, not completely, and how to surround himself with people that are smarter than him in areas that he needs. So he can stay passionate about the marketing, the brand, the stuff he's passionate about, his family. So you can find the area of something that you want to be passionate about. There's carpenters and there's finished carpenters. And I think it's important also, Dr. Chris, to know your strengths. You can't just do what you love. You've got to find a niche.
Yeah.
You've got to find out what it is about you and what you can bring to this game that's going to be unique, or what they used to call your USP, your unique selling point. That has you standing out from the crowd, and it has to be authentic. Well, there's been a lot of people that fake it, and they're BSers that get pretty famous. Well, all under any circumstances, then how you get there, it doesn't matter. You've compromised yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not the goal. I've been famous. I was in a rock and roll band when I was a young man. Now I speak for a living. I still write original material, as you see. And I don't remember applause. Remember talking. I don't remember the applause.
Yeah.
And so it's critical I didn't know the whole time that I was studying my mind with my 5 hours a day commitment, which I keep, is that I was actually doing it to learn about other people's minds, both the individual and the collective mind, because I work with organizations, which is a collective mind. Google has a mindset, Amazon has a mindset, and so on, just to name a few. And that's what you told me before our conversation and before this interview, was that you like to share these interviews, but the idea was you wanted to just talk to a bunch of smart people that are successful for yourself to learn. But the gift you have is you're sharing it with others to help them with, as I said, their introspection, which is the first step. You've got to know who you are and who you aren't. Long answer to a short question. Sorry.
No, I mean the longer, I mean the more played out, the better, you know. And I have such a diverse group of people that read this, because sometimes we'll have other doctors on, we'll talk all about, you know, health and nervous system and this and that, and other times we have business people, you know, like yourself, and you know, the wide range. And so I always like to take these concepts that seem like they don't necessarily apply to maybe family life. Like maybe the stay-at-home mom is listening because she heard some health advice and is just listening to the next one, you know. Thinking about, and there's a couple examples that I give in my book, which I'll tell you in a second, but thinking about
Perspective that you were telling me about.
Yeah. There's these principles of business where you got to be passionate, you know. Some moms don't like doing laundry. Most moms probably. Some moms don't like doing dishes, or, you know, whatever. Some moms don't want to be always picking up, you know, after their kids. And if you can find a way to outsource those things, just like your guy that hates the nuts and bolts of insurance outsources the things to people that are fine doing it, that like doing it, they get to stay creative. That's what we do with my wife. We have somebody that comes over and helps us out in the morning, recover from last night's dishes and kind of prep the house, so that way the beginning of the day isn't just picking up, you know, all the toys off the floor and whatnot. And my wife gets to make bread, you know, something that she loves. She likes to go out in the garden. Right now she's probably going out and milking the cow. Like she gets to offload the things that don't necessarily bring her joy but are still necessary, but still leave room for creativity so she can enjoy her life, you know, as a mom. I do the same thing, you know, in my business. There's an example that I give when talking about like goal setting and, you know, those sort of things, where a reward doesn't always have to be, you know, a fancy watch or new shoes or a new car, you know, whatever. It can be maybe a wash machine that does twice the load. So instead of you spending 3 hours doing laundry, you cut it in half because now you buy a bigger, you know, load, or, you know, whatever it is. And so just trying to break these principles down to everyday life. You don't have to have a Fortune 500 company, a 7-figure company, you know, whatever, to apply the things that we're talking about. Because like you said, he studied how the mind works. And it's not just a business mind, but when you understand the mind, you can make money with it. But when you understand your mind and yourself, you can also live that successful and fulfilling life as a mom, as a stay-at-home dad, as a coach, you know, as a teacher, or, you know, whoever it is. What are some of these kind of timeless truths that you mentioned, that you've discovered when studying, you know, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, that you apply to your talks and to your mentorship, you know, and coaching clients and whatnot?
It's a great question. I'll tie it back into an earlier thing you just said. That's what I love about these conversations, is that the give and take is, you know, you can make my mind consider something, or help my mind consider something with what you say, and then hopefully it's vice versa. So let's talk about, you talked about abundance before our interview, and you try to help people have more of an abundant mindset. I have a friend that says it's not this or that, it's this and that. Now, that being said, if the people that are listening want to do a little experiment on the power of focus, they can extend their arm and spread their fingers like that. Okay, I might have an open palm and spread fingers, and just stare at the back of your hand And if you do that, you can see details on the back of your hand, hair and wrinkles or a wedding band, or my nails need to be trimmed, or whatever. Now look between the fingers, beyond your hand, to something further away.
Mm.
And you notice that the hand is now out of focus.
Mm.
You can't focus that way. You can only focus. Focus is exclusive.
Mm.
Focus, you're not thinking about other things. And when fear is driving our sympathetic nervous system, which is, your mouth gets dry, pupils dilate, this, palms sweat, you have more energy, heart beats faster, breathing gets shorter and more rapid, you're pumping oxygen and so on. You're not thinking as much. And you certainly aren't thinking in abundance.
Mm.
But if we think about it, how many theme parks are there in the world where people get on the scariest rides or go watch movies that scare them, pay money to do it, stand in line? Because there's a fine line between fear and excitement. And one of the things, to get to your current question, is we don't act without fear. That makes you stupid.
Right.
Heroes don't run into a burning building to save a child because they don't think they can burn. Heroes do it because they know they can burn. But they know that this is a greater cause than themselves.
Mm.
And that they have to act beyond the fear. And then what happens is the excitement turns positive, the fear turns positive, all that adrenaline. And it turns into an excitement that keeps you focused on what you need to do. Because everything else seems boring. I could do these conversations. Well, I do these conversations all day. My clients call for 1 hour a day every week. I go from call to call to call all day long, and it's a blast.
Yeah.
And to think, as the old song says, to think I get paid for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of fun. I learned a long time ago, to another answer to your question. You met Libby, my EA, executive assistant, before I was able to get into the room. And that's my whole office. That's my entire overhead. Keep your overhead low, keep your margins high. And if they pay you what you ask, you're worth it.
Yeah.
If they what you ask, you're negotiating your salary with a stranger who doesn't give a crap. Not a good business plan.
No. Mm-mm.
So then I learned, because of focus, and I was thinking, I meditate every morning, and I think all day. And I was thinking, anything that I'm doing, to your point that you talked about with your wife, that someone else is qualified to do, I won't do it. Libby. And I've had an assistant since I was 25 years old.
Wow.
I should do what I need to do, or that book will never get written.
That's true. Because only you can write it.
Exactly right. I can talk to clients. I can help people. I can write books. I can create content. Everything else, Libby does 4 hours a day and 4 days a week. Because we simplify everything.
Yeah.
If someone says, can you send me a proposal for what you would do? I say, that sounds like work. I get paid to work. I'm not going to work before you pay me.
Right? Why?
They laugh. They go, oh, I guess that's smart.
Makes sense. A lot of chiropractors like to say, free exam and consultation and, whatnot. And it's never made sense to. I've never wanted to be the cheapest person on the block. Like, you know what I mean? Like I want to, you're
Bad goal.
you're paying me for my expertise to give you my recommendations. If you don't want to pay for that, then you're probably not going to take them, which means that you're just going to use me for as a technician. You know, it's like someone saying, Joe, what's the best stock to buy? It's like, uh, well, it depends on your risk. It depends on, it's so many, it's not just a, like give me an adjustment here. And it's like, what? It depends on what you want and what you've had and where you're going. And, like maybe something's broken. I don't know. I got to do all my tests to make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to, And I feel like you mentioned, you wake up and you meditate and you think, how many people would you say make time for themselves to sit down and think?
Most people don't. The most important time we have is our time alone.
Mm,
Most people don't give themselves time alone. And so if you think about that most people don't. When they do, they're on the thumbs
yeah.
or TV.
Yeah.
My TV's in the closet. I haven't pulled it out in 7 years.
Mm,
I haven't turned on a television in 7 years, no matter
wow.
where I've been. And maybe 8 now. I don't know. I lose track of time. But the that time alone is where you get introspection, insight, self-discovery. What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing?
Yeah.
What's taking up my time? Is the thing that I want the most in life reflected in the things that I do the most?
Mm.
Simple things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm alone daily. Some people say, well, I do that in the shower. Yeah, you don't really have to think. You got a routine in the shower. You know where you start. You know when you're done. You dry off. But it's not dedicated, peaceful,
Yeah.
complete parasympathetic nervous system processing.
Yeah. I'm as you're talking, I'm reflecting on like, do I do this, for myself? And I had a couple thoughts. Have you ever done float therapy?
Once, yes.
Oh man, we used to have a place, and I'm like, you know what? It was 2022. Like, I'm gonna make sure, like, I prepaid for the whole year. Like, I'm going to do this once a week, and I'll tell you, that hour of you're floating, no sensory stimulus, complete dark, complete like, gosh, like the thoughts that come up and the refreshment that you feel, and I'm kind of one of those people where if I'm not doing two things at once, like I'm not doing anything at all, And so I know the float is good for me. Like I'm soaking up minerals and magnesium, and I know this is physically healing, but I started to crave the mental part of it. And so they unfortunately closed down or had to sell or something like that. And so there's a new
They, they,
like
could, they couldn't float alone, but
they
they could.
couldn't float alone. Yep. Apparently it was really expensive and the person was raving overhead on them, but whatever. But I decided to there's a new co-working place and there's an individual office that you can rent out because my office is kind of open, like there's always people in it. It's not really, I don't go there to think, I go there to work.
Sure.
And I spent a couple sessions there and I'm like, you know what, why am I paying, how $75 an hour, whatever to come do this? I'll just go to a coffee shop and work there. The difference in the amount of work that I got done or the difference in the type of thoughts that I have was dramatic because in the room I'm by myself. I have no distractions, but the weird person walks in or the cool car drives by or the, like whatever, I see somebody that I know, I wrote more of my book alone than I did in a coffee shop because I'm constantly getting distracted. And so I think that point is cannot be overstated. Spending time alone, especially kind of bringing it down to relatable, the mom that might be listening to this, if you're around your kids all day or you wake up, you go to work, you go to the gym, you come home, you cook, and you're never by yourself, it's no wonder like you kind of get burnt out because you're always, I don't know, you're always worried about everybody else's needs and never replenishing that energy, where it comes from. I was teaching a business class or a mastermind, and to new entrepreneurs, had barely started or was thinking about starting, And I told them, I wish somebody told me this when I was starting out. Before I do anything, I take time to brainstorm. Just get the thoughts out of there. And I said it can be extreme as, I wonder if asteroids would come or if unicorns were real. You get all of those thoughts out there, no matter how real or unreal they are, usually related to a problem that you're trying to solve. Spend time just doing that. And then come back another session, circle the things that make sense or are relevant or can have some legs to it, and then plan. Draw it out. I use a flow chart. If this, then that, then that, then that, draw out the whole, system, rudimentary or as detailed as you want, and then take specific time to execute. If you try to do it all in one session, you're not going to get anything done. You're going to be super frustrated. And so I love that someone as high level, as busy, makes money, is successful. The most important thing that you can do is take time to think and be by yourself and not busy your time up. And that's huge. And I think that's really reaffirming for people. I wonder how many people, if that's the thing that they need to do. Like if you're telling them your advice to them, spend time, spend money, whatever it is, to take time to think. How many people think they're not worthy? It's not worth it. It's not profitable. It's not.
It's a big challenge. It's taken me as long as up to 2 years to get my clients to meditate.
Wow.
Because some of them think, well, it's a spiritual or religious experience. Not necessarily. Can be, not so. Or they feel, if I work out, I feel strong when I'm done. Immediately. Meditation, I get sleepy.
Yeah.
Or, it takes a while for them to get the benefit of it. And now I can't get them to stop. I don't try to get them to stop, but I'm just saying they wouldn't give it up.
Right.
And it's like the secret sauce that you talk about.
Yeah.
For their mind. Everything begins in the mind. And as you said before, it's meaning, behavior, then outcome. We behave to what we define.
Yeah.
So the minute we define a problem, we've already decided all the solutions that our mind won't consider because of how we defined the problem. Is there a better way to define the problem?
It's good.
And thinking does that. I did a session 152 years ago, a public session, because I don't do public sessions anymore. It's too hard. But not for me, but to the staff, and get a staff up and and a woman raised her hand, and there were only about 500 people in the room, and the lights were on. I could see her. So I was in the middle of a point. I took her question. And the room was set up with tables, long tables, thin tables. And so I went over and I looked at her. And they had, in the old days, they used to put pads out, little pads, in a pen with the name of the hotel on it. And you would take notes on the pads. And she had one in front of her that had nothing written down. And she said, you say, spend time alone daily. And she goes, I'm a mom. I'm a divorced mom. I've got things going all the time. Then my friends have challenges. Work takes up a lot of time. There's a lot of things that come up during the day that I didn't plan for. Now, firstly, Dr. Chris, her day happens to her.
Doesn't plan it.
Exactly. I don't like it when my day happens to me. I don't mind it if there are unexpected things that I didn't plan. Great, that's opportunity. I couldn't think. I didn't plan. What's in here? But I live my life by design. I go to Italy for 6 weeks every year.
Wow.
Well, I couldn't afford it when I thought of it, but I found a way to do it. And so I grabbed her little pad. I don't have one here. Maybe here. Oh yeah, it's about 5 by 7, I would say. And I just started, while she's talking, crumbling up one page at a time and putting paper wipes in front of me on that table. And she looked at me and she made a face, but she was so into her affect that she continued to talk. And I just listened and continued to engage her while I made these paper wipes. And then she was talked out. She felt she had said what she needed to say to me. I started throwing them at her gently. And of course, she tried to catch one, and then she did. And the audience is laughing. Nobody knows what's going on but me. And I increased the speed until there was no possible way she can catch anyone. And she started laughing hysterically. Goes, "What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, it's just a little demonstration about how just because there's a bunch of people in your day that want to give you crap, you don't have to catch it."
Mm.
She'll never forget that.
Nope.
So it's the right story in the right way at the right time to the right person for the right reason.
Right.
And sometimes the story is just a behavior.
Yeah. And you got to throw paper wads at somebody. I mean, that's pretty fun too.
I didn't have a straw with a
The spit wad.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
That was, yeah. That'd be amazing. Then you could have got somebody in the back level.
If you have the right, viscosity.
Right. Sounds like you have spit wad experience there.
Well, I think it's very important that we keep this high level conversation at the most mature level we can.
Right. I agree. Yeah. You went to school back in the day where you could probably still do that and get away with it. I don't think kids can. They'll probably get suspended or whatever if they start doing spit wads.
I went back to school I went to school back in the day where teachers knew that little boys and little girls had a desire to matter. And everybody wants to do a good job. The class clown wants to be a good class clown.
Yeah.
And so they understood that this is a form of expression. It's not vicious or mean in intent. Yeah. It's just something to do. And I've got this piece of paper here. I'm not throwing my pen at somebody and sticking them in the eye. And so they would just, handle it. And then afterwards call you up and say, I know that's fun, but you can't do it in the class anymore. Are you a baseball player? They'd say, no, but you look like you'd be a good pitcher. They recontextualize it.
Yeah, so good.
That's an art.
Yeah.
Now they'll just give you a doggy downer and tell your parents that you're ADHD.
Right. Yeah, go get medication. Yeah.
You love that one.
Right. It's exactly what they need for sure. Yeah. Well, Joe, I don't want to take too much more of your time. We're going on almost an hour here. And I always like to do this to really smart people like you. I don't do it to everybody, so it's a compliment. And you kind of, I guess, almost had this experience too. If you're going to impart some lasting wisdom on someone, you don't know if you're going to see them again. What's something that you'd want someone to take and to chew on and to continually grow from?
How would you swing if you knew you couldn't miss?
As hard as you could.
You'd focus.
Yeah.
Give it everything you have. We got one life.
Yep.
I've been lucky. I have two.
Yeah, you do literally.
Literally, I've had two, but on a bigger scope, it's one.
Yeah.
And the Bible says, "This too shall pass." Well, you too shall pass.
Yep.
If you know that, instead of hiding from it, you realize the value and you find passion in it. When I die, I don't think my headstone, it'll have the year I was born in, the year that I passed, but it's all about the dash, I heard.
Yeah. Yep. What happens in between. Yep. That's so good. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining me. When is your book coming out? Your new book coming out?
We're targeting spring. I'm going to guess it's going to be May-ish.
Okay. And what was it called again?
It's called Narrative Wins.
Narrative Wins. So this will come out way before that your book comes out. But if you guys are listening to this past the spring, go ahead and look for Joe's new book. Look for his other books. I'm gonna go check them out. I have a couple Audible credits that I need to use, so I'm gonna go download Joe's books and check them out. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for spending time with me. I've benefited greatly. I'm definitely gonna go make some habits to be more mindful of my alone time. Like I'm gonna go take that back, and life happened to me. The place closed down, and I didn't replace it. And so now I need to go be proactive in that, knowing how beneficial it was for me, and really not doing is holding me back. I'm not going to get further doing more, but being smarter about what I do. And so thank you for this conversation. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to hopefully staying in touch.
Thank you. We're going to make that happen. I'll send you a copy of an audio book.
Oh, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks. Bye, Dr. Chris.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Perspective Podcast. To connect with Dr. Boman, follow him on Instagram @Dr. Chris Boman. Until next time, make shift happen.